the candidates for Madison School Board this morning on For the Record. Good morning, I'm Neil Heinen. In Madison, Wisconsin, school board races are always important. People in Madison care about their schools deeply. But there's little question that this is an especially pivotal time for Madison Public Schools, and thus this is an especially pivotal election. There are two seats being contested. Seat 1, where incumbent Arlene Silvera is being challenged by NICHELLE, and Seat 2, an open seat, with the two candidates being Mary BURKE and Michael FLORES. We'll divide the show in half, and we'll begin with Seat 1 this morning, and I welcome NICHELLE and Arlene Silvera to the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let me just start by asking each of you just to give the audience 2 or 3 quick reasons why they should vote for you.
I'll start.
Please.
Yeah, I think that I bring a perspective to the board that is really needed because I'm very much focused and passionate about closing the achievement gap. I've been saying that from the very beginning of my campaign. I also believe that we need to focus very hard on how to get parents engaged and involved in the educational process. I support teachers and understand the challenges in the classroom. We are a very changed community, and our schools represent that, and they need the tools and resources to be even more effective in the classroom.
Thank you. Arlene, people know you obviously from your role, but why perhaps are you running for re-election?
I believe very strongly in public education and that what a public education can do for a community. And I think we need board members who stand strong for public education. Being a board member is a very complex matter. I have the experience and the knowledge to work on the board, balance the needs of our students, taxpayers, finances, and I think that's very critical. And I believe that all of our kids can learn, and I think you have to have that belief as the board member to go in and support the needs of all 27,000 of our students.
Okay, building our future, which is the plan, it's the administration plan, the plan that Superintendent Arad has put forward to close the achievement gap. It's a big plan. We've had people on to talk about that. But even in this last week, we've seen that the statistics are getting worse. What is your approach to this plan now, given the fact that the superintendent has announced he's leaving, Arlene? Mm-hmm. Given the new statistics, what is your approach to this plan?
The plan right now is really a document of ideas. The next step is to collect all the community and staff input and to come back with really a true plan which involves timelines, how things are going to be measured, budget, targeted students and the like. We need to look at it all together, understand what the programs cost, when we will see results, and then make the decision so we have a mix of short-term results for our students and longer-term results of building the future. The board is very committed that the plan is the #1 thing on our agenda, irrespective if the superintendent is here or not. We will ensure that this plan parts of the plan get approved and gets implemented in a timely manner.
Well, is it fair to say then that the school board is taking some ownership of this plan as a blueprint?
Absolutely. We've had discussions, and we've had discussions when we were talking about the superintendent's retirement, that this is #1, and that we know how important it is for our students and for our community, and that irrespective of what happened with the superintendent, this was our #1 priority, and we're going to make sure it happens.
Nichelle, has your approach changed at all to this plan given the superintendent's announcement?
No, I mean, I think it's still a priority. I think that the board collectively needs to take ownership for it. And, you know, my approach to the achievement gap is really taking a systems view, that we can come up with a laundry list of initiatives and programs, all which are targeted and will have some impact, but it's the system that really needs to embrace change overall for the long haul for all of our kids. So, you know, there are initiatives in that plan that have already been implemented. We need to sustain those, and we need to make sure that in budgetary decisions, those are being supported. And then we need to look at the greatest impact of anything that's new and see what we can afford and how that's going to benefit students.
Can you get to that system plan with this building our future plan?
Yeah, I think we can. I mean, I think that there are some core...
There are enough elements in there that...
Yes,
okay.
There are already some core elements in there that aren't as attractive to the public in terms of really understanding change that happens under the radar. But there are elements in that plan that I think need to be sustained, and they're critical.
I know there's a timeline here, Arlene, but just given Dan's announcement, will you insist on certain buy-in to this plan from the next superintendent?
Yes, it's going to be critical. We are going to be looking at improving parts of the plan as part of the budget, which is coming up in April and May. And the board has had discussions that going forward, irrespective of our path, if it's a new superintendent or even an interim superintendent, one of the requirements will be that the plan be implemented. It's very critical.
What do you look for in a new superintendent? If you're elected, this is going to be your job. What will you insist on?
Yeah, I mean, we need to bring somebody in who is an instructional leader, someone who has proven experience in a district that looks like ours. This is not, the achievement gap is not a new phenomenon. We're in a very political city. We need to have somebody who comes in with that experience and who has a bold vision, who can set the tone and work with the board on really setting a high standard for where we need to go.
We're going to be back with NICHELLE and Arlene Silvera from the Madison School Board right after this. I'm back with the two candidates for seat 1 on the Madison School Board, Arlene Silvera, who is the incumbent, and NICHELLE, who is challenging Arlene Silvera. Arlene, there's a report out this week from the Wisconsin Policy Research Institute on early childhood education as being critical to economic development. It was kind of an interesting new approach to that. So you've got a somewhat conservative-leaning organization really promoting early childhood education. Makes a compelling argument, and we know how important it is. We also know how school readiness is a major issue.
Absolutely.
With this report in mind, do you think there's enough emphasis on early childhood education in the Building Our Future report, or should we be doing more in the area of school readiness, even at the expense of other pieces of the proposal? Early
childhood is very critical. Last year, with our five-year-old kindergarten screener, only 53% of the kids that took the screener were ready. That's an amazing number. That's why we're leaders in 4-year-old kindergarten, so critical to help get kids ready. Working on the Born Learning delegation with the United Way, bringing in a lot of the community members to help parents learn how proper care for their children at 0 to 3. The school district works with the community organizations, Birth to 3 and the early childhood organizations, which again are part of the county. And it's those types of partnerships that we need to continue to strengthen the real young, the focus on the real young children. I think 4-year-old kindergarten is going to be tremendous success for our district. We'll be able to measure the effects right away, and then we'll be able to put in the appropriate interventions to ensure that it is working as we move our kids through up into 5-year-old kindergarten and beyond. Number 1 on the critical list. I think what I'm suggesting, NICHELLE, is that there could be a direct link between early childhood and the achievement gap. You know, if the resources went in there. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody disagrees with the importance of early intervention and school readiness at the front end of the pipeline. But I'm going to talk to you about my experience at the secondary level. I'm not convinced at this point that in our district, even kids who get early intervention and who come out of elementary school who are proficient will complete high school, because we are losing kids in the rest of the pipeline at the secondary level. We need to also pay just as much attention to what's happening in our middle and high school so that kids are completing and kids are college and career ready, and we are graduating the kind of kids that we want to put into our community to be productive citizens. So it takes a systems approach. All right, now systems approach, I'm going to also make a leap here that's going to require the same kind of community engagement that the superintendent has been talking about across the board in terms of the Building Our Future plan, both in terms of investment of resources, but just in terms of investment in owning the schools. What would be your approach to really involving the community in this critical time in our school's history? Yeah, I mean, I think that community plays an important part. I mean, I provide oversight for Schools of Hope at the secondary level. And even though under all of the discussion with the minority achievement gap, Schools of Hope, I think, is being questioned for its efficacy. I think at the secondary level, when I've talked with principals, what you hear is that when you bring community volunteers to work with young people who are struggling, the impact isn't always seen on a WKCE test score.
but it is seen in the classroom that kids are completing more homework and assignments, that kids are building confidence because they have a caring adult who is encouraging them and helping them learn very important behaviors that really focus on academics. And so I think that we need to broaden our scope and really think about how do we bridge that gap between community members coming into our schools and playing an important role.
Arlene, last question for you, same one. Has the school board, are you comfortable with the school board strategy for engaging the community in this plan as you move forward?
Well, I think the district has done a good job engaging the community, but it's never enough. We have to continue to look at new innovative approaches to engage people that are typically not engaged. Language is a barrier, transportation is a barrier. People are working 2 or 3 jobs. Many people, believe it or not, are not electronic savvy. And so we have to continue to reach out. And I really think a strategy is to go to them. And that was one thing that worked well in this recent community approach, because we went to the community centers, we went to the neighborhoods, and I think that's critical to continue building on those types of approaches to ensure that not just parents are involved, but the community.
Okay, thank you both very much for doing this.
Oh.
When we come back, Mary Burke and Michael Flores for Seat 2, right after this. I am joined now by the candidates for Seat 2 on the Madison School Board, left vacant by the departure of Lucy Mathiak. Mary Burke and Michael Flores are running for that seat, and I welcome them to For the Record. And let me just start with the same question that I asked of Arlene and Nichelle, and that's really, you both have long backgrounds, long histories, reasons for doing this, but if you could just hit the highlights, Mary, what do people need to know about why you've decided to run for school board?
Well, I think first of all, it's just the 13 years that I've been spending trying to improve education for students in Madison. That was started with the Boys and Girls Club and continued on in creating the Avid Tops program with the teacher over at East High 4 years ago. And then secondly, I would just say the breadth of my experience. Business experience with Trek Bicycle, budgeting and finances, Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Commerce under Governor Doyle, nonprofit with the Boys and Girls Club, education with the Avid Tops program, and then as a mentor to 5 students over the past 13 years. So I believe all of those are really important when you're looking at the complex job that a school board member needs to fill.
Yeah. Michael?
I bring a voice to the community that hasn't been heard before. 34 years being a minority and still going. I have walked the path that many of our kids, and I have faced the obstacles growing up here in Madison, going through the Madison public school system. Also being a father with 3 kids in the Madison public school system. I'm a taxpayer. I work as a firefighter and paramedic, and I serve the community, and I aim to serve the community in a different way. And that's towards improving our educational system, because I believe in a good, strong educational system, and it is the foundation that allows kids like me, people like me, to achieve our potential. And if we do not protect that, if we don't take care of that, it'll be detrimental to our community.
Sure. Michael, give me your perspective on both the achievement gap, as you see it, and on the superintendent's plan, the administration's plan, this building our future. Does it meet the issues that you see in the achievement gap?
There's many positives on the superintendent's plan. The highlights, one that I'm a firm believer of, is reaching out to the community. I believe the Madison School District has been aiming and doing that. They're trying to bring community liaisons. We need to ask the community to really show us the leaders that they trust in the different entities that we have here in Madison, and we need to have them represent and be voices and advocates for the parents and the students within the school, within the community, so they can come into the schools and better inform us of the needs that would better benefit our students. I believe we need to keep trying. There's parents that are shy, there's cultural issues, language issues. Many of our parents are losing their jobs or have to work 2-3 jobs, so we need to allow flexibility for the parents so they can become engaged, because it's a huge asset to the school system and to the learning environment to have them involved.
Thank you. Thank you. Mary, what is your analysis of the plan, and what's sort of your approach as a school board member to this plan?
Yeah, I think the plan does include a lot of different options to look at, but I think we have to be very careful about how we approach this. We don't want to go down the road 5 years from now and have spent the amount of money that's in that plan without having some really concrete progress being made. With the AVITOPS program that was introduced, we now have over 450 students. 100% of seniors have gone on to post-secondary education. Grade point averages are 30% higher. It's a successful program in our public schools. So I believe we can get this done, but in any of the options we undertake, we have to make sure it has the benchmarks and the accountability. If we waste time or resources, it's not going to be serving the kids in our community. So I believe we have to prioritize. There's something like 22 different options in that plan. We have to make sure that they're based on best practices. You know, let's make sure it's succeeded in our district or in other districts. And then the other thing that I would add to the plan or take a different approach is collaborations. I believe we have to understand that the issues we're facing are community issues, and we need to embrace them and take responsibility as a community. But that means the school district and our schools need to also be open to partnerships and collaborations that leverage the resources that we have in the schools. That's how I think we're going to be successful.
I'm going to come back with school board candidates Mary Burke and Michael Flores right after this. A reminder that next week we move to the 10:30 a.m. time slot. That's following the newly expanded Face the Nation here on CBS. My guests this morning, Mary Burke and Michael Flores, two candidates for District 2 of the Madison School Board, the election coming up on Tuesday. Because whichever one of you is elected will hire our new superintendent. I want to ask both of you again, and I'll start with you, Mary, if I could. What will you look for, and even what would you insist on in a new superintendent?
Well, with the experience I've had with different organizations like the Boys and Girls Club, we've been in that position of needing to hire new leadership. So I think that experience will help me to target in on what we really need for our school district to make sure that we have strong public schools and leadership that can address the challenges that we face. So first and foremost, I would look for someone who has the experience in the areas that are top priorities for the district and has been talked about. Certainly most people see the achievement gap as being one of those top issues. So specific experience and success in that. I think we do want someone who is a strong instructional leader and understands what is necessary to be successful in the classroom. I believe we need a leader who is open and embraces collaborative partnerships, because I think if we're going to be successful, we need to address our issues as a community, not just thinking the schools alone can do that. So those are the types of things that I would look to, is a track record of success within schools, public schools, and addressing the achievement gap.
Any differences or additions, Michael, from your perspective?
Well, additions, I think, is very important that we bring in the community and we get them involved in choosing a leader that they believe is going to represent the community and has a deep understanding of what Madison aims to be at and the diverse cultures that are in the Madison School District. So I see it as a great opportunity, and we need to put them to a litmus test, encountering everybody else and getting that feedback from the community. I don't think it should be a decision solely on the school board. I aim to be an advocate for the community. So I need their input to make a better choice, because we do need to really treasure those partnerships, because the community needs to give us the help, and we need to help and empower the community to resolve the achievement gap, the budgetary issues that we're facing. That does not help any of our kids from the top to the bottom, you know. So we need that buy-in and that confidence from the community. So,
Michael, do you have strategies to engage the entire community in this conversation as we move forward?
Yeah, growing up here in Madison, I've created roots, and I can fit in to different groups in the community that sometimes they don't have a voice. You know, our Hmong community, I've reached one of a leader, also a teacher at Sherman, Kong Bang, and he has been, he's a great asset that represents that community, or at least is a voice to that community. The Latino community, the African American community, other parents, members of this community too, that I'm in contact with. I grew up with them, you know, they were my teachers, or, you know, I've worked along their sides and so on. So I believe those strong roots that I have are a strength that I bring to the board, and I plan not only working within the board, but outside the board. You need to see this issue in the big picture of things and what I can resolve in the school district. I'm going to aim at resolving there, but then I need to engage the community.
All right. This is probably going to wrap it up, Mary, but I mean, it does get to the diversity of our community and how we engage them in the schools.
Well, I think diversity in our community is a great asset for this community, and I think that we need to engage our community in deciding who is the next leader for our schools. I think there's great ways of being able to do that, getting candidates in front of community groups, in front of teachers, in front of our administrators. You know, the more input that you can get as a school board member, I think the better decision that we will make, and that is something that's going to be critical. But I think, you know, this is a time when I'd like to see that we set a really high bar for our community. We were rated the most educated city in the United States recently. I believe we need a public school system that is on par with that, and selecting that next superintendent will be important.
Well, I thank you both very much for doing a great job in a short period of time. I realize this is kind of condensed. The election is Tuesday. It's going to be a nice day, so get out and vote. My thanks to all of the candidates for being here today. Remember to vote April 3rd. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week at 10:30 on For the Record.